Good morning on this Saturday morning, June the 25th. Hope you, trust me, I know lots of people have to work on Saturdays, but if you're one of those persons who doesn't have to work on Saturdays, I hope you slept well. I hope you, as I don't do here, didn't turn on an alarm clock for today. Let the body rest as long as it will. Today's devotion's entitled, He Remains Faithful. If we are faithless, He remains faithful, for He cannot disown Himself. And that comes from 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 13. The Lord is perfect in His faithfulness, but we aren't. How wonderful to know He remains faithful in all circumstances. His faithfulness is not affected by our fickleness. I'm regularly thankful for that. The Apostle Paul wrote about this during his final imprisonment just before he was beheaded. His last known letter was sent to his son in the faith, Timothy, encouraging him to maintain his resolve to serve Christ. Right in the middle of the second chapter, Paul recorded one of his poems or hymns, which he called a trustworthy statement. If we died with Him, we will also live with Him. If we endure, we will also reign with Him. If we disown Him, He will also disown us. If we are faithless, He remains faithful, for He cannot disown Himself. That's a few more verses, 2 Timothy 2, 11 through 13. Paul's writings are dotted with poems, and I think he was a hymnist. He was providing spiritual songs for the early church, and this one was written just for Timothy. It has 4 thoughts. First, we died with Christ. This is a figure of speech that recurs in Paul's letters. There's a sense in which we die to self and sin when we begin living for Christ. But if we die in Him, we will live in Him and live with Him forever. Second, we must endure. The entire letter of 2 Timothy is Paul's shout from the rim of the grave for Timothy and for us to remain true and steady, even in the face of threats and intimidation. Third, we must not disown Christ, as Judas Iscariot did in the Gospels. And fourth, we're not going to be perfect until we get to heaven. But our imperfections don't mar the utter faithfulness of Jesus. He remains faithful, for He cannot deny the promises He made or the integrity of His divine nature, which cannot sin and will not fail. This is the second time the Bible speaks of the Lord remaining faithful. The other occasion is in Psalm 146, verse 6, quote, He is the maker of heaven and earth, the sea and everything in them. He remains faithful forever. Unquote. It's not that He was faithful or that He is faithful. He remains faithful to us faltering followers, both now and forever. The closing quote was by C.H. Spurgeon. If my Lord were not kind to me tonight when I go to Him with my burden, I should think that I had knocked at the wrong door, because the Lord has been so good and so faithful to me up till now that it would take my breath away if I found Him changed. That's the level of God's faithfulness to us. We should always expect that it will be available to us. We should always expect that when we go to Him, He's not going to bolt the door. He's not going to berate us because He knows we're weak. He knows we're dust. Just like when you have little children. If you expect them to be perfect little angels all the time, then you have not experienced parenthood. We still love them. Oh, we may discipline, we may do some correcting, but we don't throw them out the door. We love them. We work with them. We're not always as patient as we should be, but then we don't have fully the attributes of God, do we? He is faithful to us. He will always be with us. He will never leave us. He will never forsake us. He never deserts us, and he invites us to come to him all the time, even when we're casting our care on him. He still cares for us. Blessings to you today. He is worthy to be worshiped. Join together with other believers tomorrow and worship him together. Lift up your praise to him together. Blessings.